Um, so we're going to move from movement to intake. The next speaker is Sister Xenia. She's a dietitian, passionate about helping people to build healthier relationship with their food, their bodies, and their minds. She takes a sustainable, evidence-based approach to nutrition, empowers her clients through habit formation and health literacy. Her experience includes working with notable integrative cardiologist Dr. Ross Walker on chronic disease and gut health programs, and she now works in preventative care as a manager for the government-funded My Health for Life program, supporting individuals at risk of chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes and heart disease. She's going to be talking about our eating habits in Ramadan, inshallah. Over to you, Sister Xenia.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. One moment. Thank you. Okay. Well, assalamualaikum everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Suhana. I want to thank Ima for having me today and giving me this time to talk about healthy eating during Ramadan. Thank you all for attending. The talks so far have been wonderful and I've personally learnt a lot. So hopefully you all can take one or two things away from my talk as well. Okay, so we're going to be discussing nutrition as a whole, but we'll start with intention setting. So why are we going to make some change, or why is it important to? We'll focus on gut health, so do a bit of a background, talk about prebiotics, probiotics, and specific eating behaviors that can help. And then we'll use that information to, well, how can we build a balanced suhoor or iftar? We'll also look at sleep towards the end of the slides. And just a disclaimer that all the information I'm sharing is very general. It's not specific to any health condition or any individual. So if you do have specific questions, please talk to your health professional and your GP. So intention setting. Before we talk about nutrition, it's important to consider that all of our eating, what we do and why we choose a certain foods, what we choose, it's all part of a behavior. So we want to make sure that we can clarify our intention setting and understand why we're doing what we're doing and the change we're about to make. So the Prophet ﷺ says the deed depends on the intention. So why should we make change? Take this Ramadan as an opportunity to eat the way the Prophet ﷺ guided us, so the Sunnah way, develop spiritual discipline, God consciousness, and be more mindful as a whole. So the goal should be that in optimal nutrition, we can then increase our ibadah, our capacity to do more, and reach fasts that are of the best of the best as a whole. So what do we know about Ramadan? It's the idea that we're intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating, and there's so much research going into this area, and it's all the fad and everyone's talking about it. And what do we know is that it's beneficial for us on so many different levels for our health, whether that's weight loss, whether it's our blood markers, our gut health. There's lots of benefits. And so Ramadan, subhanAllah, our religion forces us to do that month of reset and that month to help our health, which is a concept in this kind of Western area. So if it's a benefit, we know that the research reinforces that. We often, funnily enough, end up feeling more gut health issues like constipation, indigestion, heartburn, bloating, fatigue, dehydration, and poor sleep quality. And this is all related to how we're eating. So that's a really important distinction, is that we know that intermittent fasting is good for us and Ramadan fasting is a type of this or the same concept, but are we reaping the benefits in our habits and in what we're eating? A lot of those nutrition concerns that were discussed were gut related, and that's why we'll focus on gut health specifically today. So the gut is an organ, and it contains millions, trillions of different bacterias, fungi, viruses, and it's kind of this central control for our health in a way. And it's influenced by many different things. Things we can't control: how we were born, where we live, disease, age. But diet and exercise, these are areas we can control for most. So it's important to think about how we can influence our gut health positively. In terms of nutrition, what are the foods that we know negatively influence our gut health? That's oily foods, deep fried foods, processed foods, an excess amount of red meat intake and protein, and excessive dairy intake as well. So some of these foods might be staples in our Ramadan diet. I know that in my household, a lot of these are. So information. We know now that these foods negatively impact our gut health. We know that they increase inflammatory markers when consumed regularly. We know that it increases our risk of diabetes, of heart disease, and it increases our risk of functional issues like diarrhea and constipation. And interestingly enough, there's a link towards cognitive decline as well. So you can see that spectrum. And I think this diagram really sums that up, that if we put these specific foods that are not ideal in, we get negative outcomes and we're more likely to have disease-related outcomes. But if we choose positive foods, so specifically if we're looking at fiber or prebiotic foods, probiotic foods, then we see positive outcomes. And on a mechanical level, what are we seeing? We're seeing the production of short-chain fatty acids. So these basically are the key here. We know that they impact our health very positively. They improve blood sugar levels, regulate our appetite, support intestinal cells, so like on a physical lining level. It is good for our immune system, reduces inflammatory markers, reduces our risk of heart disease. And we also know that in eating these fibers, probiotics, prebiotic focused foods, we also increase our sleep producing hormones, the production of these that helps in our quality and duration of sleep. So we want more of these foods. What are examples in practice of these foods? Prebiotic foods. So what are these? They're foods that feed our good gut bacteria. So the existing bacteria, it gives them fuel to multiply. They contain special fibers that aren't digested by our body, and that means that they ferment, and that creates more beneficial bacteria. There's common foods like vegetables, onions, garlic specifically are higher in this, fruit such as bananas, apples, whole grains like oats, brown rice, legumes, lentils, chickpeas. So a lot of our diets include these, but it's important to know the actual benefit of why to include them more in Ramadan. And we know also in the Sunnah that there are specific foods that have been recommended for us. So whole grains, specifically barley, raw honey, cucumbers, dates, figs. The more variety we have in our fruits and veg, we also know that this is linked with positive health outcomes. And also we know that it's recommended to eat a mostly vegetarian diet. So meat should be an occasional thing. And in that there are very positive links with our health as a whole. So that's prebiotic. Now we look at probiotic. So probiotic foods contain live beneficial bacteria that help maintain the balance in our gut and kind of gives the existing bacteria more friends to multiply. And this bacteria then supports digestion, immunity, all those benefits we spoke about. The most high yield probiotic foods that we know upon consumption actually give us that benefit is Greek yogurt and kefir, which is a fermented yogurt drink as well. There are other foods that sit under this category that are fermented as a whole. Within our cultures, we've got different foods. So there's some on here like sauerkraut, tempeh, miso. They might be different for us, some of us. But there's also, if we're looking at, for example, naturally fermented pickles, that's quite a common food or side for different cultures. Labneh and yogurts are quite commonly eaten in different cultures. So they're examples. So we want to have more probiotic foods. And from the Sunnah, we know that honey, olives, and nabi, the fermented date / raisin milk-based drink the Prophet ﷺ used to drink, is again recommended for us. So within that, we're following the Sunnah, we're actually then adapting these scientific principles now. Okay. And so now we'll look at eating behaviors and then we'll look at bringing it all together. So eating mindfully is more than just a healthy habit. It's an act of sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ taught us to eat slowly and deliberately as well. And practical strategies that are recommended for us is to eat, for example, with 3 fingers. The equivalent could be with a teaspoon rather than a tablespoon. And so in doing this, you're actually slowing down the way your body and its fullness signals hit. So the 20 minutes is technically how long it takes for when you start a meal to when we should finish a meal for those signals to initiate. So our body can tell us we're full and that we stop. But if you think about the idea that if we eat quickly, quick in pace, and we're not chewing a lot, we're eating a larger quantity then we're overriding our body's way of regulating. And that's how we overeat and see these negative health outcomes. So a teaspoon or 3 fingers if you're eating with your hands, a minimum of 20 minutes to engage these receptors, and also acknowledging there are hadith around the idea that we should take breaks while we eat. So to slow it down, because we know that this makes meals more enjoyable, and that this was knowledge that was had that it's better for our health. Simple other things could be saying Bismillah, for example, that gratitude before meals, and eating without distractions. So no phones, no TVs, just eating slowly, giving yourself that time. And this will have a really big impact then on those different nutrition concerns that were all mostly gut focused at the start that we mentioned. Okay. So how to build a balanced suhoor, bringing that knowledge together. The goal of suhoor is that we feel full. So we're not normally eating at this time. So we want to also make sure that we're keeping our gut happy. So fueling up for as long as we can in that early time, given our fasts are quite long, but then also preventing any disruption. So what are we looking for? We're looking for high protein foods. We're looking to include a probiotic food at this time if we can, including low GI carbohydrate foods, which I'll discuss in a moment, and just making sure that we're planning this intentionally. Okay, so GI is a concept I just mentioned. The glycemic index, or GI, is basically how we compare different carbohydrate-based foods and how it raises our blood sugar levels in our body. So in this graph, you can see 2 examples. The blue line is high GI. So high GI is, examples could be white bread or white rice or sugary drinks, refined cereals as well. So they're digested very quickly, which makes our blood sugar levels increase very quickly, and what comes up must come down. So that kind of up and down leads to greater hunger, lower energy, poorer sleep. And you think about, well, for suhoor, we're trying to be energized, we're trying to be, sustain ourselves a little bit better. This is counteracting that. It's counterproductive. If we look at low GI, what does this mean? Is that, it could be that, or examples would be whole wheat rotis or basmati rice, oats, lentils, chickpeas, and most vegetables as well, that are carbohydrate based. If we eat them in the right portion, they're digested more slowly. So this leads to more steady energy, better fullness, improved blood sugar level control, all of which we're looking for in that suhoor time. So if we've got more balanced energy, we have more capacity to get through the day, to engage in more ibadah as well. So yes, this concept is important. And it could be that you even try to put this in practice. One morning, try to have cornflakes and milk for your suhoor on its own, just that, and see how you go throughout the day. On another day, you might try one of the suggestions I provide in a moment and see how you feel. It's the ultimate test, and basing your change off that. So here you can see some suhoor meal ideas. These are just examples. So the top one is something I have normally. Oats with a bit of kefir, Greek yogurt, fruit, and some healthy fats. You could choose to add a protein powder here as well if you wanted to. But you can see there's a low GI carbohydrate in oats, as I mentioned, a probiotic food, the prebiotic in the fruits, and then a healthy fat to keep us full. The second and third options are similar. So high protein bread, you might have 2 slices and an omelette with mixed vegetables through it. And there you are, again, ticking your boxes. You might have one roti made from multigrain flour or whole wheat, and you might have this with some leftover curry, for example. It's a lean protein and have some nuts or maybe a cup of milk on the side. So these are examples. There's lots of different ways to go about it. But we are looking at these rough kind of guides for calories and protein. And staying hydrated is really essential at this time. As mentioned already, we're fasting in summer, long fasts, so trying to get 2 to 3 cups of water as a minimum at this time, and pacing that out between when you wake up and when you finish, when the fast starts. Okay, so at this point, you've gone through a long day. We're all tired. We've had 14, 15-hour fasts. We've managed different responsibilities, family, work, community. We need to be intentional with how we're going to break our fast, and the kind of practical steps around that. So if we're looking at building a balanced iftar, the goal with this is to balance your energy, prevent overeating, and gut disturbances specifically. So we want to try and focus on refueling and preparing our gut, which has been in this kind of resting mode all day. And think of this as like a staging process. We're warming up the bowels, we're activating our digestive enzymes, we're gently like readying our stomach for the meal that is to come, rather than all at once and then feeling all of those negative outcomes like the reflux, etc. we mentioned earlier. So following the tradition is that we break the fast. It could be with some dates, ideally with some dates, and something that's fluid based. So if that's a small bowl of soup or warm fluids. So, if you're drinking water at this time, warm water is more beneficial as it helps our gut, again, priming for that meal rather than cold. So this could be something tangible to change or to think about. After having a small amount of food, cup of soup, etc., go and pray Maghrib. So what this does is it creates some space and time between breaking the fast and the meal. Yeah, so having your dinner meal after this. And you can see there's a samosa there. So the idea there is that it's not that you're not allowed to have such foods. I know that that makes me feel like it's Ramadan, like having my mum's pakoras or my mum's samosas, but remembering moderation is the key here. So we haven't eaten. We want to choose foods that will fuel us and meet our nutritional needs as much as we can. So one rather than none, and maybe rather than 10. Okay, so the dinner meal. This is what we call the healthy portion plate. And this applies to all meals, but also specifically at this time, it allows us to then take care of the amounts of foods we're having, portion control, but also variety, making sure we're ticking all the different boxes to get as much nutrients as we can in. And any food from any culture could fit this model, because you can see there's kind of like a structure to it. So if you're looking, for example, at lower GI carbohydrates, you're looking at about a fistful serve, which is about a quarter of your standard size plate. And this could be biryani, for example, or it could be pasta, or it could be some starchy veg of your choice. So a quarter of your plate. And then we're looking at vegetables. So the aim is to have about half a plate of vegetables, however you prefer to have them, cooked, raw, canned. The steam fresh bags is an example there. It could be in a curry as well. So however you prefer to have them rather than missing out on them. And if this is different for you to have vegetables, aim for a quarter of your plate to start and then try to build up. So 2 open hands is the portion. When we're looking at proteins, you can see the palm size is the guidance there, and it's a lean protein we're aiming for, whether it's meat-based or it's plant-based. Okay. So now I'll give you some ideas, just roughly from a few cultures, of what this could look like in practice. So an idea at iftar could be that you have like a vegetable soup, and there's a serve size there that kind of guides you for how much to have. And then at dinner, you can see each of those principles applied. You got fattoush as your salad, grilled salmon as your protein, and then some lentils and rice as your whole grains. So that could be an idea. A Western meal idea could be that you have pumpkin soup, for example, similar portion. And for dinner, following that half plate, a mixed salad, a protein of choice, and then whole grains, which could be rice, could be pasta, whatever you prefer. And again, you can see the calories are just a rough guidance. It's not that this is specific for anyone. Okay, and then desi. So this could be that you have chicken corn soup, again, similar serve size, and then you can see the salad, there's a curry, and there's brown basmati rice. So you can see in different cultures, the principle applies, and at least gives you a guide of how to structure meals for dinner or post-iftar, but this is also useful for all of your meals moving forward. Build those habits now so that lunches and dinners beyond Ramadan can also follow this approach. as discussed, hydration is really important. So when you do go and break your fast, making sure that you are prioritizing water over other drinks. I know in our cultures we have ruhafza and soft drinks, but we are looking at prioritizing that. If you're looking at alternatives, you might go for non-caffeinated herbal teas, a coconut water, kombucha, or fruits, which are also quite hydration rich. And keep a water bottle on you. It's the simplest trick to kind of get more water on you, especially if you're going to Tharabi. You can sit between the prayers as well. Okay, so behaviors for better sleep. We know, again, based off that research, intermittent fasting does improve sleep efficiency and how we sleep, so quality and quantity. But again, it comes back to, well, what can we do to encourage that? So movement has been discussed. So a short walk after dinner could be an idea to help your gut digest, because in that sense, your gut is also a muscle. And if you're moving, then you're helping that muscle do what it needs to do. Finish eating early. So allow 2 to 3 hours if you can. I know that we break our fasts a little later than usual these days, but try to leave as much time as possible before you actually go and lay down to help your body digest. It does take our body a few hours to process foods. And choosing sleep supportive foods, everything we've discussed today, that portion control, prebiotic foods, probiotic foods, they all support healthy sleep. So applying those principles will also have this benefit. And limiting sleep disruptors. So in this after dinner iftar time, limiting caffeine. A lot of us are desensitized to caffeine, but we know that the half-life, it stays in your system for about 6 to 7 hours, and it does stimulate our brains and impact our sleep. So reducing this down, minimizing it where possible, and also reducing your high GI foods, oily foods, highly processed foods. These all have negative outcomes to our digestion, but also our sleep. And just coming back to, again, eating with intention, avoiding your late night grazing. Ramadan builds discipline. And we have lower energy requirements in this time, generally speaking. So we need generally to eat less. We don't need to eat the 3 meals worth plus snacks in that same day as we normally would. So here's a bit of a visual, if someone's a visual learner, just to kind of bring it all together. We've got sahur, a meal that's balanced, water, iftar, we've got dinner, and then after dinner, trying to minimize snacking, etc. And movement is essential. A water bottle is a great tip. And this will all then reduce your negative GIT symptoms, encourage sleep as well. Okay. To sum up, planning is the key. So even now in this month, you're all here, motivated to make some change. Do that planning, write it down. So there are some templates I'll provide in this presentation that you could print out and start thinking about, well, what am I going to have? This visual healthy plate, visual model of the healthy plate is a great one to print out, have on the fridge or a cupboard, but you're going to see it. If you see it, you're more likely to action that. So that's definitely a great strategy. Within that healthy plate, celebrate your cultural foods, include them. A meal planner is a great tool to think about, well, what am I going to have for sahur? If you plan it, you're more likely to have it. Therefore, you gain the benefits of it. And we know that that's also recommended to have it versus missing. Also plan your movement within that. That's a great way to encourage that. As a whole, you could cook your sahurs in bulk if it's a hard time to prep meals. That's what we do in our household. So multiplying a recipe by the number of family members ahead of time, and also prepping salads, for example. So where there's more labor in a specific aspect of a meal, doing that in bulk. And that's what we do. So prep a large bowl of salad for multiple days and having that ready to go. Simple tools as well could be choosing air frying and baking instead of deep frying to reduce kind of the caloric intake and excess fats. And there's one extra note in terms of we're hosting iftars, which is a big part of Ramadan. Thinking about, well, we then have a responsibility. We have this knowledge now. How can we choose foods that enable everyone who's attending to eat in a more balanced way? So encourage the gathering to break iftar, go for Maghrib, and then come back and have that balanced meal. Include salads in your spread, include options that are more yeah, balanced and fresher. Okay, so that's coming to an end now. Here's a quiz. Um, what we might do is I'll just read through them and then the next slide has the answers. So I'll do that quickly. So true or false, you should completely eliminate all sweets during Ramadan. Is this true or is this false? If I feel like it, how many samosas or fried foods should I have at iftar? Is it 1? Is it 0? Is it 10? And lastly, what's the half-life of caffeine? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 12 hours? Is it 24 hours? Or is it 6 to 7? Answers? So false, you don't need to completely eliminate sweets. Acknowledge that we're looking for balance, we're looking for enjoyment. There are a lot of cultural foods that are attached to this time. So having sweets in small amounts, we're looking for balance. So consider sweet foods as sometimes food in the bigger picture of this. If I feel like it, how many samosas? 1 is ideal rather than 0 and 10. It's about having it in a balanced way so that it doesn't impact our health or gut. And what is the half-life of caffeine? So it's 6 to 7 hours, as mentioned earlier. So that's how long it stays in your system after you've had it. So thank you all for your time. This is my email if you have any questions or would like some resources. I've also hyperlinked the ones that I've mentioned and some others in this presentation. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Zeenia, for such an energetic presentation, and we packed with so much information that's beneficial. I'm now going to make 30 frozen samosas because I can have one a day, yeah? Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. There's some really good questions coming up. I'm just going to throw two at you first, if that's okay. One of them is about the probiotics. What do you think about the probiotics like Inner Health Plus and other capsule forms versus food-related probiotics?
It's a good question. Generally speaking, we should be getting it from our diet because if you think about if you're eating Greek yogurt, you're also getting the benefits of the protein. You're also getting the benefits of the calcium. So there's multiple benefits we get from a food-based approach versus supplements straight away.
No problems. And the second question is oatmeal a great suhoor meal with protein?
It is. It was one of my suggested meals. With your oatmeal, you want to make sure that you're going for oats that aren't necessarily instant oats because when they're instant oats, they're slightly processed. They take away some of the fiber for it to cook more quickly. So you're looking for steel cut oats or again, minimally processed oats.